And we're back. Oh, what's going on with Dead's cam?
Oh, wait, what?
Whoa.
Is it, like, tripping out again?
It's like
Let me
The
fix that.
Exorcist.
Green? Yeah, I see it. Hang on.
The
And DB
hell are
Love,
you
thank you
doing
so
over there?
much.
There you go. Is that better?
Appreciate
I think I
that's
fixed it.
so much better.
Alright, my bad.
There we go.
And again, DB Love, thank you so much. Thank you for going to hang out to do the same for Dead. Really appreciate it. All right, and with that, there's one topic I wanted us to kind of touch on about 2023, and something that comes up in gaming all the time is monetization. And the reason, so what I mean by that is, so typically we've seen more predatory ways of getting financing and stuff like that. And I feel like 2020, 2021 was kind of the pinnacle, and it's started to get a little bit better over the last in 2022. But how do you guys feel about 2023? Did you feel like games were trying to get your money more once you were in game? Or do you feel like maybe the hype pushed you to be an idiot like me and spend money on the let's play 3 days early copy? Or, you know, or is that something you gloss over now and don't even pay attention to? Whoever wants to start.
I think the one time I did make that mistake was with Starfield. I was interested. I was thinking, "Oh, you know what? I should probably get it now." Otherwise, everybody is gonna be watching these other streams, and it was like this competitive nature just, like, kicked in for whatever reason. Like, I had to, like, stream it before somebody else did. And immediately after playing it, I regret everything. And I think I played maybe like 2 or 3 streams and then just kind of lost interest entirely. Like I felt bored playing the game, and that's what felt horrible. So I was trying to imagine what it would been from what it would have been like from, say, the perspective of like, say, a viewer. Like if you're not enjoying the game, are they actually enjoying watching you play in the game too? Right.
Hmm.
Otherwise, Star Citizen. Yep. F8C, weird cash grab things. I have no comment on that one. I'm always like super skeptical about their like marketing department in the first place. I love the game, but the way they push a lot of stuff in that game just feels really gross sometimes. And that's where I stand with that. So that's what I would say.
So, real quick question for you is, have you ever played any games like Genshin Impact, Candy Crush, a FIFA, a Madden, and played those online? Have you ever messed around in that world?
No, not really. Not my thing.
Okay,
I don't like playing anime games. I think they're a little weird, but that's just me.
I get it.
And sports games not really my thing. So
Gotcha. I'll get back to that later. I just had that question.
okay.
But did you want to add
hmm
anything to that, or you ready to hand it
No, I
off
think
to Tom?
that's about it. I was otherwise pretty happy with the purchases I made. I feel like the few games that I did buy this year otherwise felt like they were worth my time. That's what I would say.
All right. What about you, Tom?
Okay. I'm sorry. I think I might have spaced out or had a stroke. I don't really know. Can you just re-ask the
Mhm.
question again? I know I was talking about monetization, but can you just re-say what you asked?
Do you smell toast? Okay. Um,
Uh,
so no, my question was like, in the past we've seen trends of monetization in games get kind of worse, and I feel like since 2022 things were getting a little bit better, but in 2023, did you feel like games were coming after your money more hardcore? Did you feel like, maybe you were baiting into getting a pre-order that you shouldn't have and you regretted spending the money on it? Or or do you pretty much gloss over that in your gaming world and it doesn't really enter into your train of thought?
yeah, I would probably say that I'm kind of taking a little bit more advantage of Game Pass for some games. Like I'm checking everywhere first before I go and I buy a game. Like I don't want to for Starfield, for example. I don't want to buy a game that's gonna give me only 3 days early access. LeTiredd.
Yeah, thank you.
But and then it's coming out for free. So that's uh, I'm at a point I feel like I'm trying to buy a house this year. So like trying to cut costs as much as I can. So I'm kind of trying to overlook like spending money on something I'm not sure about. And I'm sorry I keep going back to this. It's just the game I've been playing for the last 2 years. So it's a lot of what I know. For Tarkov, for example, right? You buy, the standard edition, the basic edition. I think it's like $30, maybe $40. And then if you choose to upgrade, the difference comes out, right? So now they don't have EOD anymore. If you're not aware of that,
I
EOD's
did hear
gone
about
forever.
that. Yeah.
Hmm.
Gone forever. They might do another package later down the road, but EOD was their heavy funding package for the game, and that's why it was so much. But so like if you buy the EOD edition, that $30-$40 came out of your total. So it's not like you had to spend that $140, which I think if other games took that into consideration, they would probably make a little bit more money off of their games because I don't think it's a necessarily a cash grab. It's like oh, do you want to upgrade? And you take the difference out. Like, I don't have a problem with that. I think that's a better concept because if you look at other games, right, like Call of Duty or Fortnite, all those microtransactions, right? That's the money grab. And I don't know if it held true for this Call of Duty, but I believe the first the Modern Warfare 1 that they came out with back in 2019, well, the remake, right? Um, I believe, and I could easily be wrong here, but those paid for, like, skins and stuff and those guns actually hit harder than their normal counterpart without the skin. I believe that was a thing. I could be, this was a couple years ago, but I believe that there was that. So it's one of those things where it's like, is it pay to win? Right? Because then that's just a cash grab. What's the point of playing a game if you're gonna have to buy this skin because it'll give 5 more hit reg damage than its normal counterpart to someone that can't buy those skins. That is where I stay away from games. I don't really like buying skins or buying any of those stuff. I feel like that, I know some people care about cosmetics. It's not something I really necessarily care about. I mean, going back to Tarkov, I normally keep the normal threads that you start off with because I don't want to spend $3 million on a nice outfit, right? But some
Hmm.
people do spend their money, but I normally don't have that money in game, so that's why I don't buy it at the same time. But yeah, I will say I kind of try to pick my games carefully now, especially because we've seen so many games like we've already talked about. I don't want to buy a game when it just comes out and then be like, "Oh, this is a trash game. I gotta see if I can return this or not." Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I try to stay away from paying too much for video games, but at the same time, I'll buy a game at a drop of a hat if my buddy's like, "Hey, I got this game. Like, let's play it." American Truck Simulator, for example. Have all those DLCs because of you, LeTiredd.
Sorry.
It would like that's more how games get my money now at this point. It's more, hey, get this game, we'll play together. That's more of where I'm spending my money on games for the most part at this point.
Gotcha. So, but so you know about microtransaction world a little bit more, and I think it's really interesting that you mentioned that in the first Modern Warfare. So I looked it up. The Modern Warfare One remake was 2019. That
Okay.
was kind of like what I was saying. That was kind of the height of the cash grabbery, the gamble mechanics, or sorry, surprise mechanics, the however you want to call it. That was, yeah. And then things have gotten a little bit better because people started to, well, they started to be taken to court in Belgium and Holland. I don't know if you know this, but you can no longer spend money to buy FIFA points or whatever stuff like that in game. That doesn't exist
Yeah.
anymore, which sucks to be there because. Well, it's actually great and it sucks because it's great because you don't have to worry about that stuff, but it sucks because you're still playing against the rest of the world and they all get the leg up at that point because they can spend cash and get crazy, you know, advantages, way more money, the best players, stuff like that. So, you know,
Yeah.
I always find it, and to kind of go back to why I asked you, Dad, about, the extent of your experience in monetization in games is one of the things I always actually really appreciate about the Star Citizen community and Tarkov community too is their view on monetization is still from 10 years ago because
Yep.
it's not, and that's great, and that's actually a really good thing, and it's not like, oh, they're outdated or they're too old grandpas. No, 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 that's good because the rest of the gaming industry thinks that buying a Nicki Minaj skin that makes your hit points go up is acceptable to a certain extent. They think that having a Star Wars Battlefront where you're basically just ending a game to see what you got in the loot boxes and hoping that you can get whatever it takes to then spend more money and get, Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, or whatever. Um, and it's really funny for me because I find it to be kind of two different worlds within the gaming industry, and I think it needs to be more like the Star Citizen Tarkov people. It's like, oh, what? I had to spend $150 for end of or Edge of Darkness. I gladly kind of spent that money, A, because of the stash, mainly because of the stash space that you get, and also because I really supported the studio and what they were doing. Um, Star Citizen, I can't stand some of the ship sales. I think it's insane. The one thing that really drives me crazy is the selling ships that don't exist in game yet and just buying a JPEG. I'm not a fan of
The
that.
concept sales. Yeah.
Concept sales, not a huge fan of that. But I
Hmm.
will admit that in the last month, I've thought for the first time, what if I got a Galaxy? No, don't do that. But all that to say, like, it's kind of there's an entire world out there that's way more extreme than the monetization in Star Citizen, and not to that doesn't excuse what Star Citizen does. The golden ticket, or sorry, the platinum ticket was the one that really got to me. I wasn't a big fan of that. I thought the golden ticket, the idea behind it wasn't horrible, but the execution was a little clumsy. And where I think they lost me on that one was then that was just, well, now you have the right to buy it in the store. Okay. It should be now you have the right to buy it in the game, not go spend more money and buy it in the store. Anyways, but so all that to say, like, I think monetization this year as a whole has not been as bad. But then again, I've completely gone away from a lot of games like EAFC, the Maddens, which I went hard and played a lot of online FIFA back in the day, and I lost tons of money in that. And it's the way it's done was really to incite you to spend that money. Um, for part FOMO because people are doing it anyways, and they're just going to keep having bigger and bigger teams, before you can even get there. And then also just because there's an addiction factor in the way they design these games, right? So,
Hmm.
but for 2023, I feel like from what I've read in the gaming news world, from what I've seen from other content creators, besides the usual suspects, it hasn't been as bad. And I don't think it's necessarily we're going on the right path to the right direction. No, no, no. I think actually we should be worried because maybe they're holding back for the next big cash grab idea that they have, or the one thing that terrifies me that I've heard is, well, in games like, let's say, a Call of Duty, well, you're going to have to start paying for that extra mag in game with real money. You're The other idea that's been started to throw around with the people from Rockstar with GTA 6 coming out is, well, it's not fair that people spent $60 and played 10,000 hours of this game. Well, we might charge you by the hour, by the day played. And that, I think, is something we all need to be really careful about. And even though it hasn't been implemented yet, and even though, like I said, I feel like maybe 2023 was a little bit better overall in terms of monetization and not as predatory, all that stuff is still there, and I think we still need to be aware of it. But I think it's a great thing too to go back to a game like Baldur's Gate 3. I think it's great that won game of the year, and I think it's great that there's so much to do, so much to customize, and it doesn't cost you a cent more than the cost of the game.
Yeah,
Yep.
I do wanna give, like, a quick shout out to freaking Apex Legends. I don't know if it's still a thing over there, but when that came out, it was super high in microtransactions for, like, all the games. That kinda peaked during that season of everything you gotta pay for if you want it, right? But I like how Apex did it, and again, like I said, I don't know if it's still the same because I haven't played it in a while, but season 1, season 2, season 3, you buy the battle pass, whatever it was called, the battle pass once, and as long as you play the game enough to max it out, you don't have to buy the battle pass again next season.
Yeah.
And the same thing, if you as long as you played that battle pass, that game enough to max it out, you got enough coins, right, in game currency
Hmm.
to buy the next battle pass. So it was kind of a, hey, you got to buy it one time, which, sucks obviously, but the game was free, right?
Yep.
So you got to
Yeah.
buy it one time. And as long as you play the game enough, then you don't have to buy it again. So I think that was something really cool and different. I don't remember if Fortnite or Call of Duty did it because when I was playing Apex, I was only playing Apex for the most part. But yeah, I felt that that was needed to be at least mentioned.
Yeah, I get. I think no, that's a good thing to mention because yeah, like I said, I don't really know much about Apex, Valorant, Overwatch, any of those. I have a little bit more patience with a game like a Valorant because that's free to play. So they got to make their money somewhere, right? So if they're going to sell a skin or something, I don't find that to be absolutely horrible. Do I think it's great overall for games? No, I think if we can get away from that stuff, the better it is. Because the problem is, and this leads me into the next thing I want to talk about, you're no longer designing a game to be fun to play and have a great story. You're designing it to keep people either playing and spending money or to get their money off the bat and no longer care whether they spend more or not. I'm thinking of a Starfield for that latter point. For the first one, I'm thinking more of like a Call of Duty or an Apex or whatever, something
Yeah.
heavily monetized. So, you know, I one of the things that I was really disappointed with in 2023 was stories. Even for a game like Hogwarts that I put in my top 3 of the year, the story wasn't. I mean, at the same time, they're going up against a series of books that's one of the best-selling series and won awards and all that crap. And even the movies were really, really well done, at least especially for the first 3. The 4th one, they kinda lost it, but they I felt like that story, there's so much to tell in that world. There's so much lore. This one was clearly kind of surfing off of, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, The Crimes of Grindelwald, and I think it came out right around the time that Dumbledore's Secret, I forget what the name of the 3rd movie is, came out. And you can definitely tell that one of the reasons why they set it back earlier in time because I think it's what late 1800s, early 1900s the game takes place, which I love
Yeah,
that fact by the way. I think that was a great idea. Um, Anyways, this game full of great ideas, full of tons of really good immersion. Just the story didn't deliver as much as I would have, but like I said, maybe it's because I'm comparing it to the original story of Harry Potter, or but all that to say that I feel like a lot of games just don't put any effort into story. Like that's an afterthought. And I don't know if it's because of monetization. I don't know if it's because the entertainment industry is having some issues with creativity recently, but it's unfortunate and it's really disappointing. So yeah, what's your guys' take on that? Do you even care about story driven games? I know there are people like Douche who doesn't care about the story in games. I tend to love the stories because I love good storytelling. So yeah, what kind of where do you guys sit on
With
that?
with games, I think they're pretty lackluster most of the time. So I go in low expectations anyway. I like MMO games most of the time. Single player's cool, but if it's not delivering like a really immersive experience, I'll probably just pass on it entirely. So that's why this last year I really haven't played a lot of that. I like survival craft games otherwise and all that stuff. So I mean,
But you
put
did love
some to the horse.
Cyberpunk and
I did love Cyberpunk because they actually did well with the characters. They had good story. There were some like moments that were just kind of like, well, I mean, it was okay, but I think for the most part, yeah, it was pretty solid. So if they can deliver a good story, I'll play it, but most of the time when I go into a game, I don't see that. So it's just
okay.
whatever at that point.
Okay. What about you, Tom?
I smell toast. No, I'm just kidding. You know, going back to what I mentioned, I think very beginning of this whole podcast, was, for Call of Duty, I specifically play the campaign first, right? I loved the campaigns for Call of Duty. Maybe they weren't the best, but in again, all from my opinion, I loved their campaigns. I had so much fun. The story continued for most of the time, like across a bunch of them if they were in the same grouping. I love a good story mode. I mean, I love a good co-op story. I wish more games would kind of bring in um I wish more games would bring in a co-op story mode a little bit more. I think World at War was the only co-op Call of Duty story mode. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that was the only one. I think um let's see. I think Hogwarts I think it was a good starting point for them. There hasn't been a Harry Potter game. Could be wrong. Pretty sure since the 90s or early 2000s. I think that was like the
I mean,
last
the
Harry
only
Potter game there.
decent ones are the Lego ones, basically.
Yeah, besides
Yeah.
those. Yeah, that's true. But
The early
I think
2000s
it
had a
was a
couple on PS2, but yeah.
yeah. I think it was a good starting point for them to create another one and branch out. I mean, kind of, I know it wasn't too, but there was so much to do and so much to see. I didn't necessarily care about how great the story was. I just loved that I was in Hogwarts. I was in Hogsmeade. I was a wizard, Harry, right? So that was one of the bigger things for me for that. Um, but I'd agree that story modes probably aren't the same as they used to be. And I mean, streaming now, I don't like playing solo for the most part. I like, either playing with people in the community or playing with my other friends or streamer friends. It doesn't matter who. I kind of have swayed away from story mode since there hasn't been any like solo games that I've been wanting to play. I mean, the original Borderlands, I loved 1 and 2 because those were also co-op. So I'd play with my buddy, and that was so much fun. But yeah, I don't think stories are anywhere where they used to be. I think it's kinda died. I feel like a lot of people are like, if we make it something like this, people are just gonna say, "Oh, it's the exact same as this game," or whatever. So I think but I also think that, when I was playing story modes, multiplayer online games weren't that prevalent because not everybody had, like, the internet to play games online, especially because I was on console, I wasn't, like, PC or anything. So I think that might also factor into the things that people game developers are thinking. People just wanna play with other people online, they don't care about story mode. I think that's also something that could, be part of it.
And I like that you brought up the Call of Duty campaign because we all know, or at least most of us have heard about how lazy that was at best. And that's unfortunate because I used to buy all the Call of Duties just to play the campaign. One of my favorite Call of Duty campaigns is World at War. Great campaign.
Yeah.
The first Black
Yeah,
Ops,
it's memorable,
great
you know?
campaign. Like so good, so good. But you know, and I think you make a really good point, Tom. With yeah, when we started playing games, late '90s, mid '90s, late '90s, early 2000s. Um, yeah, it was all mainly single player oriented because, well, yeah, like you said, there was no multiplayer. 56K doesn't really work for playing, Star Citizen. It just would have been way too slow. And, it's a reality and the fact, and I think it was somebody said it in chat, DB Lev, he he said it well. He's like, kids don't want to play a good story anymore because, well, they're not used to good stories anymore to begin with. And secondly, they want to be the next Nick Merckx, the next Shroud, the next Ninja, the next big streamer that's the best at whatever game, the next Pestily, the next Landmark, Tiggs, whoever you want to be. Like, I think that's a good point. The competition has definitely become more of a thing with the rise of the internet and multiplayer games. But let me say this: don't forget that the game this year that destroyed everybody is a story-driven co-op game,
Yep.
and they did an amazing job at writing that story for it to make sense, um, no matter what you choose. Even if you choose the most random, disgusting option you can think of in the game, um, like it has an impact and it makes sense. And I think they proved that you can um, make a game with a well thought out story, and it doesn't have to just rely on gameplay or co-op or the sweatiness of the people you're playing against. And I think I always look fondly on single player games and want to go back and play them and hope for new ones because the sweatiness of playing MMOs or heavy multiplayer games is just too much at times to really deal with. So, yeah, I do hope that it doesn't become more of the same next year with, uh the story. Who cares about the story? There's a guy, he's mad, and you got to go get the bad guy, and then cool, you save the person that you're supposed to save, and now you're the hero. Cool, yay, go on. That that's kind of how I feel about a lot of action games, at least recently. And Starfield is another perfect example of, like, this is an RPG. You guys are claiming this is an RPG, but it's heavy on the action and heavy on the reused assets. Because I mean, you've been to Three Moons, you've seen almost every asset in the game. You've seen almost every
Yeah,
base
like, the
layout.
layout of all the
Yeah,
settlements and everything was so, like, copy paste,
yeah,
unfortunately. I know what you mean. Aside from, like, maybe 1 or 2, like, places, you had the one planet where you meet the cowboy, right? And that's a
yeah,
little different nearby, like, the bigger city, but as soon as you get a little bit away from that position, it's all the same again. It's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. They made an effort for the major towns. New Atlantis, was that it's called? I can't remember
Yep.
anymore.
Yep,
That
that'd be
one,
it.
Samco's planet, which is like the cowboy outposty outskirts Firefly planet for me. Um, and I can't. And then there was the space stations, which actually, besides the assets kind of laying around the ground, whether there was trash or not, were pretty much the same. So yeah, that felt recycled and a little disappointing. But no, I don't think any of that bodes well for 2024, unless they heard a lot of the criticism that they received for that
Even if they
stuff.
heard it, are they gonna actually act on it?
Well,
That's
no.
the big thing.
So actually, that brings me back to one of the reasons why I showed that list earlier is, well, I hope Bethesda learned their lesson because they didn't get nominated for Game of the Year. Actually, this reminds me, there's one thing I wanted to talk about, and I'll get us to that in a second. But they weren't nominated for Game of
Mhm,
the Year on IGN. They didn't sell that well. They were outsold by Hogwarts. Who would have thought going into 2023 Hogwarts would outsell Starfield? I mean, yeah, you can say there's a huge following for Hogwarts. People love Harry Potter movies and all that, but that doesn't necessarily mean they all play the video game. Where everybody who loves Bethesda plays video games. I would have not put Hogwarts above a Starfield. They only sold about 10 million copies.
mhm.
Um, and that's most of that was done over the first 48 hours because of the hype. But then once people started
Yep.
realizing, ooh, it's, uh, it's not so good, those numbers died. Um, Baldur's Gate 3 killing it in the numbers. Like, they didn't sell as much for some reason. I thought they would have sold more. Um, but everybody still thinks that's the game of the year. And I think, also to go back to Tom's point, I think the Xbox Game Pass didn't help the sales of Starfield, but I think if it hadn't have been on Xbox Game Pass, I don't think they would have ever hit the 10 million copies.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's what I was just trying to Google right now, was if those downloads count as a sale for them, right? Obviously, it doesn't help with them being profitable, but I was just wondering, I can't figure that part out. That's what I mean. That's what I'd be interested in knowing because obviously, um, that might have changed things, but at the same time, maybe it wouldn't have. Maybe it's still, you know, um, sold that many more. But I also feel like I don't think Starfield's on Switch. Like, I think we also should like keep in the back of our mind that Hogwarts was sold literally on all platforms throughout the year. It was like in increments, right? It reached pretty much every PC, Xbox, PlayStation, and Switch, right?
Yeah,
So like I think that also is a big reason why it was one because it had so many different platforms to be sold on and sold multiple times to one person, right?
yeah,
Because if I
Mhm.
buy it on my PC, maybe I'm also going to buy it on Switch when it comes out in the summer because that was a huge gap in between and maybe I want to, take it on the plane with me and try it all over again while I'm flying to California to see LeTiredd. So, one of those things too to keep in
I mean, it was also really
back
big
in your
on
mind.
Steam Deck.
Yeah.
So that, the fact that you can play it on the go. Yeah, no, I totally hear that. And that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, to a Steam Deck. So no, I think for me though, I am still disappointed that people don't put a little bit more effort in the stories, but where that just makes me even happier that Baldur's Gate 3 came out. And it's been obvious for years that games like Call of Duty, they don't care about their campaign anymore. Um, I can't remember which one it was where they got so much flack for this there just being no campaign. It was before the first Modern Warfare remake. I forget if it was Advanced Warfare Infinite, and it's just their formula had become we'll pay a couple big names in Hollywood to come be voice actors or actors in our campaign. We'll give you like 6 7 missions. You'll and it's guaranteed at some point you're going to be in a helicopter, you're going to be in a jeep, and probably on a boat. And okay, we've hit that checklist. All right, here's 8 hours at most of gameplay for you, um, which is so disappointing. But okay, so how do you guys feel about 2024? Are there anything? There's first, sorry, two parts. Let me go back. How do you feel about 2024? Is there anything you're really looking forward to game wise? And kind of coming off 2023, does it look like a good year for the gaming industry?
I would say I'm kind of hyped up for a few titles. That being said, you have Stalker 2 coming out in September. I don't know if it's going to be as good as they're presenting it to be, but I have a lot of hope for that one. There's some multiplayer games out there that I can't remember them off the top of my head, but yeah, there's quite a few. I don't think it'll be as good as 2023 though. I think there was a lot of like big titles. There was one that was shown during the Bethesda Developer Direct the other day. Do you remember what that was
Blade?
called? Was it Blade?
I mean, that
No,
one's
it wasn't
not.
Blade. Blade looks really good though. That one kind of surprised me. Surprisingly,
I mean, but that's not
it
until
looks decent.
2027.
No, it's not going to be out for a while. Let
Yeah.
me check a list really quick. There was one that
Um,
seemed like it was. Yeah, go ahead if
before
you want.
yeah, no, 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 I was just gonna say one game that, Blev actually told me, that he's excited for, I was
Mhm,
because we were talking about it before we jumped in the podcast, it's called Off the Grid. Yeah, he actually
mhm.
just said it in chat
Yeah.
too. Off the Grid, looks interesting, um, it looks like a it's an extraction, I believe, based game. PvE, PvP, I believe. A little bit more vehicles part of it, and it looks like a little bit of a mix of like Cyberpunk meets Tarkov meets I don't know if you guys ever saw Superhuman or More Than Human. I don't remember what that game was called.
I
It
think
was
I
like
know
a
what you're talking
blip on
about.
everybody's yeah, it was like a blip on everybody's radar for
Detroit
like
Become
I think
Human? No, not
no, no,
Become
not
Human.
that one. No, no, it was an extraction like BR game like a year ago or 2 years ago. Um, but that game does look cool. I've never heard of it before, so that was the first time I looked it up. So that I mean, it looked interesting. And I know we're talking about new games for 2024, but I also
Mhm.
want to bring back to just new games in 2023, the finals. I don't know if you guys ever watched any of that gameplay for
Finals
that
is
game.
fantastic. It's
I
so
didn't
good.
not really know. I saw everybody's trying to play it. I didn't pay too much attention to it, to be honest, though.
It's
Was
pretty
watching
like
some people play it. Definitely an
mhm.
interesting and could be fun to play game.
The PvP is pretty well thought out, I feel. Like they did such a good job balancing all of the roles, I feel,
Yeah.
for the most part.
So
The pacing especially is just so much fun. Fully destructible environments just adds a new level of depth that you have to think about in the middle of a fight when half of the wall could come tumbling down, while you're trying to, resurrect a friend or whatever at that point, right?
That is pretty cool.
I did find a list, by the way. So a few that I was looking forward to this year. Hellblade 2 looks like it'll be probably game of the year. In my opinion, I know that's probably it's too soon. But that one looks so fucking cool. Um, Star Wars Outlaws looks kind of interesting. Stalker 2 I already like brought up. Avowed was one that they kind of showed the other day. They updated the graphics. It looks decent. There's I think it's maybe based out of like Russia or Eastern Europe. There's one called Pioneer, where it looks like Stalker, but it's multiplayer and you can go throughout the entire area. Not necessarily like Extract, but more open world. That one it has been on my radar, but it's doesn't look like it's anywhere near release. So just keeping an eye out. Plus, I mean, Star Citizen has like maybe Pyro this summer, from what I understand. So there's a lot to look forward to. I hope. You know.
Yeah. No, I think the only game I'm looking forward to, sorry, 2 games. I'm sorry, 3 games I'm looking forward to.
4 games. Okay, 5 games.
5 games.
25
Games.
games. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay. Yep.
All right, there's 150 games coming out.
All right.
So
But which ones?
so I'm really looking forward to, most of all, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I kept wanting to bring it up as one of my favorite games of 2023 because I first played it in 2023, but it came out in 2019. So I was a little
Hmm.
behind, but absolutely loved that game. Incredibly well done. Um, I'm really looking forward to the next one. So that comes out in February normally. Super excited about that. Crap, it is actually 4 games. I just thought of another one. The next game I'm really excited about is Homeworld 3. That's an RTS. And I know we don't typically talk about RTS too much, but love the first 2 in that series, even Cataclysm and Desert to Carrick. I never really got into too much, but I own them all. I've played them all. I can't wait for Homeworld 3. Big fan of that series. And then obviously one of the games I'm looking forward to the most for next year is South Park. Love the first 2 South Parks, Stick of Truth and Fractured But Whole. Absolutely great games. I'm a huge fan of South Park to begin with, so yeah, I'm going to be looking forward to those a bit more than others, probably. But even the first 2 are still just fun, wacky, stupid games to play that you can actually really enjoy. And I'm not a big fan of turn-based, but South Park somehow makes it okay to play that stuff. Then the last one, maybe the one that I might be one of the most excited about, if it actually makes it out in 2024, is Squadron 42. Come on. How are we not excited about potentially
2025 for that one, I would say. If I mean that's
2042 will have
optimistic.
Squadron 42? No, I'm kidding. But you know, it's
2042, 2042. Yeah.
no, no, no. I do hope we could get that in the end of 2024.
Yep.
I think there's a
Me
chance
too.
of maybe December, but you're right. Most likely it is a 2025 game. But yeah, if we take that one out of the equation, excited about yeah, South Park, Homeworld 3, and Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth. So we have those to look forward to at least. And then
Hmm.
what was the other one I saw? Prince of Persia. Oof, I know that. I don't know how I feel about that, to be honest. I don't know if that's going to be good. I'm not holding my breath on that one. Star Wars Outlaws. I honestly, I don't care. I, I don't care about Star Wars at all anymore. I could care less. I'm so disappointed to say that because love the franchise still so much. But with all the crap that's been coming out about the movies and episode 10 and the new trilogy they wanted to do and other movies, I'm just kind of really over it. I'm not expecting a good game at all. Will I pick it up? Yeah, probably. I won't play it day one though, for sure. Not gonna
Yeah.
happen. But all right. And you guys have anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I
I
didn't
think
get to
we
go.
covered it.
Oh, sorry.
Motherfuckers.
I'm sorry,
You didn't get to
Tom.
go, dude.
So sorry, Tom.
Ah,
Sorry.
how dare you? Okay, so I didn't
The
play the
hat.
first one, but I know a lot of people are excited about it. Arc 2 is supposed to come out, I
Oh,
believe,
that's
this
right.
year. Um, so again, I never played it. I mean, I've seen clips of it, never really watched anybody play it. Go fuck yourself, Flawless. But another game that I'm excited for, um, because when they released the trailer, I think it was a year ago, and it looked good. Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League. Um, I am excited. I'm probably not gonna buy it right away. But it's by the creators of I believe Batman Arkham, like all
It's
that series.
Rocksteady.
I believe it's
I
this.
think it's
Yeah.
Rocksteady.
So that's something. Yeah, Rocksteady Studios. Yep. Um, That's when I'm excited to see and hope it comes out. Good. I mean, that's going to be probably just a campaign type of game. I don't know. I don't know if there's anything to it yet, but I believe let me, I have it pulled up here.
So I've done
Initial release
some
date, January 30th.
yeah, I've done some digging on Suicide Squad. Um there's a great video on YouTube by Luke Stevens. I'll post it in the Discord. Um a lot of streamers were able to play it early, like a couple months ago, and
Hmm.
with a lot of questions coming out about the game, they decided to release it early because IGN and some Kotaku and some others gave it a bad, not a great review. Um,
Yeah.
I think you'll probably be really happy with some of the character interactions, but um, you'll probably, I don't know, I don't see how that gameplay is going to get keep people in it for very long. The one thing I will say that I find very weird is that you're playing as superheroes, supervillains who all have powers and abilities, but who for some reason throughout the game are running around with machine guns and Gatling guns and shotguns, and that's now their main weapon. Um, I can't say I'm looking forward to that one, but I'll look forward to watching you play it on stream because I did hear that a lot of the character interaction is pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll see. But I definitely like Arc. I know a lot of people are excited about because they really enjoyed Arc
Yeah,
1. Stalker, I'm excited for. I want to actually play the first one because I mean I've only heard like pretty much good things about it for the most part. So I actually want to play that first one over. But yeah, I mean I don't really know too much about the games upcoming because honestly, because of how some of the games last year came out, I'm like, I don't even care until they actually get released.
yeah, it's a good point too, and I think for me that's one of my big takeaways from 2023 going into 2024 is like, you know what, as long as we don't get anything that was as big of a dumpster fire as Redfall when it came out or the day
Has that improved
before.
at all since the release? Do we know?
I think they
Redfall, I
dropped
mean?
it. I'm not
Did
100%
they?
sure. I have to go look that up, but I
Mm,
think they may have just stopped uh completely developing it because
yeah.
yeah. Oops. That's yeah. Sorry, let me look that up real
The
quick.
Elden Ring DLC is Shadow of Erd Tree. That's the name of that DLC.
Which one?
Elden Ring Shadow of Erd Tree.
Ooh, I've been hearing nothing but great things about Elden Ring. That is probably one of my next games to play.
Yeah. I was looking for the Skyrim one, but that's the only one I saw.
So apparently Bethesda is still Bethesda now says Redfall's new heroes and other deluxe edition content won't arrive until sometime in 2024. So it's still being developed. They're trying to figure it out to fix it. There's a hero
That makes
pass.
sense.
Its average concurrent player count on Steam in its first month of release was a paltry 305, and in the last 6 months,
Wow.
that number plummeted to just 17 over 30 days. 17 players, not 1700, 17K, 17 million. No, no, no. 17, 1 7.
That's pretty rough.
So that's pretty rough. Yeah. Um,
Yep.
anyways, guys, well, I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I think we can wrap it up here. I'll look forward to doing another one with you guys very soon. I want to say a huge thank you to Dead Frag and ThattomofDay for joining. Let me get you both some new shout outs. Douche, if you can help me out with that.
Thanks for the invite, dude.
Of
Appreciate it.
course.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was a lot of fun.
I want to say thank you to everybody who joined. Thank you for all the follows. So thank you, Way Diddy. Thank you, DB Love Gaming. And thank you, Joint, so much. And thank you, Dead, for refollowing. I really appreciate that. And and
I
thank you
just
for the
wanted to make sure the
comments.
alerts worked. That's all. I'm sorry. You know.
All good. Thanks everybody for the comments.
Hmm.
Thanks for the chats. Thanks for helping us fill in some of the gaps. Thanks for entertaining us as well as we're going through this. Thank you, Dead, for making me hydrate 5 times. Thanks
No
you
problem.
guys for making Wear the Mario Hat on podcast. I don't know how that's going to go down, but it was fun. Um, I hope everybody comes back for the next one. This video will be out on YouTube, I hope within the next 24 hours, but 48 hours at the most. Um, Again, thank you to the guests. Uh, let me keep helping do shout with some shout outs. And yeah, everybody, make sure to go check out YouTube. I will let Tom and Dead know when the video is coming out. I'll give them a link, and you can ask them for it, or go check out the YouTube channel. Please leave us up